Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of You Can Call Me Karen. Before we get into the episode, we wanted our listeners to know that this year we are proud to take part in Podcastathon, the world's largest charity podcast event. Podcastathon 2026 is taking place from March 14th to March 20th. And given that these next couple of episodes address some difficult topics, we wanted to take a moment and put out some positive energy to help offset these tough messages. Please consider donating to the charity we have chosen to support called Groove With Me. Groove With Me is a free dance school for girls in East Harlem. It attracts and engages girls during the idle after-school hours when 90% of youth violence occurs, instilling life skills such as creativity, problem-solving, perseverance, focus, dedication, and accountability, leading to success both in and out of the classroom. Groove With Me creates community and builds the self-confidence and self-respect necessary to make positive choices. Please visit podcastathon.org and groovewithme.org to learn more and donate to these worthy causes. As you know, we all dance and very much support that industry and hope that you do as well. Switching gears, this week we will be talking about one of the most notorious 90s scandals, the Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton relationship. We will discuss sexual harassment and want to caution anyone who may be triggered by these topics to listen with care. If this one isn't for you, we understand and hope you will consider visiting podcastathon.org and groovewithme.org to donate to some amazing causes. Now let's get to it.
And the green one, little box, and the blue one, box, and the yellow one, and the little, and the box, and the green one.
Hi, welcome to the You Can Call Me Karen podcast. This is Steph, and I'm joined by my fabulous co-hosts, Manny and Karen. Hey, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
So this week, we will continue our journey through the 99s and the 2000s with one of the most influential scandals of our generation. This 14-month stretch of salacious headlines not only changed the landscape of pop culture, but of news coverage and ultimately the federal government of the United States. We will be discussing none other than Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. But before we get into that, we gotta know. Who you calling, Karen?
That was great. I want to be like, wait, sorry. I just messed up the juvenile entrance.
I knew exactly where you were going, though.
Oh, for that one note?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
The 99s and the 2000s.
The 99s and the 2000s. That was very good.
Thank you. I
So
don't have
who's
like
got a
the
Karen of the
musical
week?
acumen to like do the melody, but I can rap it.
Yeah.
Okay, Karens of the week. Is that what you just asked us about?
Yes.
Is that why we're here today?
That's why we're here. That's what we
Do.
do.
Do you want me to go first, Manny?
By all means. Karen was just embracing her own Monica Lewinsky and giving head to the microphone. For those of you
My
not
mother
watching on
listens
YouTube.
to this podcast.
She knows your filthy ways. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, so my Karen, I have been holding on to for probably the entire time we've recorded this pod
What?
because I can't quite, well, for a variety of reasons. It's a woman who was in our HOA and we just moved, so thankfully are no longer part of that. But this woman, she is probably the reason why we moved. She lives in like an alternate reality where like fact doesn't matter. And I'm not going to be able to sum up everything in a succinct way, but like this woman is like such a Karen. She is the most important thing in the world. Nobody else matters. Everything she does is right. Everything everybody else does is wrong. There were like constant complaints about her and her husband, who would like fight so loud that everyone in the entire building could hear them and everything that they were saying. She would constantly leave the garage door open. We live in the city, and so like the garage is on the alley, which is a perfect place for people to steal things if they're unattended. And so there was this constant like group text in the building of like, the garage door is open again. And then her alternate reality of like, I was just bringing groceries inside. It's been like 1 minute. And like it's like arguing with Trump, where it's like, you say the sky is blue and he's like, it's green. And you're like, no, but it's blue. And he's like, no, it's green. And you're like, how am I supposed to argue with this? Like, and so I can't tell you how many times it would be like, I would leave, or Bob would leave in the morning to take Maxwell to school, and the garage door was open, and then he'd go to the gym, and then he'd go to the grocery store, and then he'd come home and the garage door was still open. Somebody would say something and she'd be like, it's been open for 4 minutes. And it's like, no. So anyways, it was a problem the whole time we lived there. She was like the literal one. They would leave garbage in the back staircase, like, which is inside, and they have babies, so that includes diapers. And so then the entire staircase would just literally smell like baby shit, like rotting 3-week-old baby shit. It was just one thing after another with these people. And then like a week after we left, after we moved out, I was exchanging texts with the woman who used to live below us there, who we were friendly with. And she sent me this crazy email chain of like the goings on since we left, which was literally like a week at that time. And apparently this Karen left the garage door open again, and one of the guy's bikes was stolen, like a nice bike. And so it was only a matter of time. Like, I can't believe, honestly, that nothing was stolen sooner than that. But then the chaos ensued, and she was telling all these crazy lies in this email, this like long email chain back and forth about things that happened in the past. And it was just lies. It was just like a total false recollection of reality. And we have all these text chains to prove what happened and when. Like, she pulled Bob into these stories. We don't even live there anymore. Yeah. So she's hardcore Karen. I didn't want to say anything when we still lived there out of fear that maybe she somehow would stumble across it. But it's just like, it was just one thing after another with them, and I am so grateful to be gone. But I feel really bad for the people who are left stuck with her.
It reminds me of this. I've been talking to one of our friends, Celia, about this like idea of community, and there's something going around now of saying like being in community is about being inconvenienced. There's like a whole post, and like there's posts going around circulating about like, if you want to be in community with people, like it's going to require you to like sacrifice your time, essentially, is like what it's saying. It's like, it's going to be an inconvenience to you to like show up to these things. It's going to be an inconvenience to you to do whatever. But this last week, I came across someone who said being in community, it might be inconvenience, but it's also about consideration. You know, if I want to be in community with you, like I have to consider like your needs and my needs, and like how we're both going to be able to connect given those various considerations. And one of the examples that she gave was like, you know, I told my very good friend that like after she had a baby, like, please don't expect me to watch your baby. Please consider that like I don't feel comfortable around younger kids. Like I don't feel comfortable like holding them. I'm just not like a new baby kind of person. And I guess something happened where the mother, I guess there was like a certain age that she was like, I'd feel comfortable watching them at like this age or whatever. But something happened where the mom didn't have anybody in her community or in her network to be able to watch the baby. And she had to reach out to this friend to see if she could watch the baby. And that was the whole point of like, she considered everybody else. She considered what I had told her. I considered her situation. I considered, her needs. Right. And so like this conversation is reminding me of that. It's like, it's just so inconsiderate. Like you live in a shared community, And you are not considering like people's belongings in the garage. You're not considering people's safety. When you're opening up, you're not considering people's like want to live in a clean environment by leaving diapers, their health like concerns, right?
And
so,
the list goes on and on, by the way. There were
on and on and on and on.
1,000 different things that they did that was like just wildly inconsiderate. But it makes me really sad. It sounds like when you're talking about whatever this like community is inconvenient or whatever, it feels like grassroots propaganda to further separate us. That feels to me like a continuation of finding ways to further divide us as opposed to getting to know your neighbors. Listen, I don't particularly have time to like chit chat with every neighbor on the street for 20 minutes every time I see them. But on my new street, everyone is really friendly. And I've realized everyone knows everyone and they kind of look out for each other. They have all these unspoken rules that we're getting to know about this street. And it's lovely. I'm not looking for 40 new friends, but it is nice to know that the people that I'm living around care about one another and about our shared space, and that my child is safe here and the kids are out on the street playing and everyone's looking out for them. Why would that be a bad thing? It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I think the word inconvenient is what, when I heard community is inconvenient, I went to the negative of it, but I feel like I would maybe replace the word inconvenient with it takes effort.
Saying that being in, I'll have to get the correct quote, but they're saying being in community requires you to be inconvenienced. Like it requires you to make a level of sacrifice to be in community with other people. Like Karen was just saying, I don't small talk, but in the spirit of community, I will do that in order to understand and to be connected to the people in my community.
Yeah, but I think, and that I get that, but I think the words inconvenience and sacrifice sounds negative, which to Karen's point puts it out into the world that it's hard. And it is, but if we use positive words like it takes effort and I can't think of another positive word for inconvenience, but like when I hear inconvenience, I know what they meant, because I always think to myself, like, I have to carve out time to check in on my friends and stuff. And that's hard to do, but it's worth it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that part. Like
headline, you're like, oh, well, then I don't want a community. Like you stop there and you don't read beyond what they're suggesting to do.
Yeah, when in reality, your point of that woman had someone who could help her in a moment where she was in need, and that you shouldn't consider that inconvenience. That's part of.
Well, that's why I shared the second part, is that like that's the point, is that like the person was saying exactly what you guys are saying, is that it's not about inconvenience, it's about consideration. It's about being considerate to the people within your community, within your network.
Just like human decency.
But I think the spirit of the first one was saying, it was calling all of us out that we have moved to more siloed, individual style of living. And in order for us to move beyond that, we are going to have to recognize that we are going to be inconvenienced. Like, I think that was the spirit of it. I don't have the full like language of it, but it was just calling us out as a people. We've been so ordering groceries is convenient for us, right? So we don't have to go to the grocery store to like be in a line or whatever. Like we pay for the convenience, right? And they're saying that like if we want to be in true community, we're going to have to step out and be inconvenienced by some of the stuff that our privilege has given us in this new age, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that was a call out, because I really, you think about all the things you do to avoid any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Contact. Good Lord.
Yeah. Okay, so my Karen, so we were talking about the gym earlier. And so this is a gym Chad for me. I see a lot at the gym, and I feel a lot at the gym. So this story takes place at Lifetime. And speaking of convenience, like you pay for a certain, like I pay for a certain product at Lifetime, right? Like I like the cleanliness, I like the machines, I like the style, right? So I love going there, and seemingly it is great. But there has been times where it's like a little bit more crowded when I've been attending. And I do like a tread boot camp. I think I talked about this on season 1, where like I hop on and off of the tread. So when it's crowded, I do feel slightly bad about that, but not really, because I'm allowed to take up space in this world. And I get there at a time where like, if it's open, then I got it. And you don't. So anyway, sometimes when that happens, there's like limited weights, and like I put my stuff out, like I have a whole setup on the mat, I have a whole setup on the like tread, where I like, you know, I'm just like indicating that like this site's taken. Karen doesn't know that group.
I just thought you mispronounced.
Site's taken.
Site's taken. So
What's that from?
Really?
Quick.
Forrest Gump.
Well, okay. I will know it in like a month.
So anyway, so I pull up my weights. Oh, and an integral detail of this story is that I also, guys, I think I sound very psychotic when I'm telling this story now. Maybe I'm the Karen, but I also bring my own towel. It just like
You're too thin.
Yeah,
Scratchy.
yeah, it's like not good for my skin. Like I want, so I use a very specific towel. You both will recognize this, and anyone will recognize this towel. It is the towel that you wrap, like when the babies are born, you swaddle them in, the blue and pink one and the white one.
Yeah.
It's a very specific towel that you know is not from the gym. Okay.
Yep.
So I lay out my stuff. I have the weights there, and I'm on the tread, and I come back and my weights are gone. And I like, my towel is like over the, like on the whole setup. It's just, you can tell somebody is there using it, and my weights are gone. And it's this Chad, he like took my weights and was just using them, and didn't even like, I was like looking around to like see who might've taken them, and he didn't even like acknowledge that he took them. So then the next time I see him at the gym, I'm in a different area where it's more secluded. I'm like, you know, I'm on and off the tread, whatever, but there's also like mats around where other people like could potentially come and work out. This motherfucker starts swiping his feet, like cleaning his shoes on every single mat that is in the area.
What?
Yeah. He's like wiping his shoes off on each mat as he like walks to go to the water fountain. And then he does the same thing on the way back.
Okay,
I'm like,
that's not normal. Like, that's not even part of any procedure.
Why are you doing this to other people's stuff, other people's equipment at the gym? Like, you're taking things, you're wiping your feet on things. What is wrong with you? Chat of the week.
Period. Did you didn't say anything?
I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. Here's my thing. I will only say something to somebody who does something like that to me if my boxing instructor is around. Because he'll have my back if something goes down.
You are we.
What's that?
You are we.
Like a little one?
Little one. You're strong, though. I'd be scared of you.
I'm strong. I just want to have a lifetime member there who knows me.
Yeah.
Who knows that you must have pushed her to a limit if talk to you that way. I need somebody who knows me to like be like, no, you fucked
You
up.
wrong.
You went too far.
You messed with the wrong bitch. Anyway, all right. Let's talk about that blowjob from '96, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about it. You just heard our Karen stories, but we can't be the only ones. If you've had a Karen or Chad encounter or confessional, you've been a Karen yourself, we'd love to hear from you. Wherever you listen, click on the link in our show notes and text us your Karen stories. So as we began planning this 90s, 2000s focus season, adding Clinton Lewinsky to the list was a no-brainer. I feel like Lewinsky became a verb, noun, and adjective during this time period. Coverage of this was everywhere. And who can forget, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. That was a good invitation, thank you. So it was clear that we had to include it this season if we want to call ourselves millennials. When we divvied up the topics, I was happy to take this one. But as I began to prepare this week, I realized I don't know shit about this. like Monica Lewinsky became a household name in 1998, and I know blowjobs were involved, and of course Bill Clinton. But early confessional, I don't think I understood that this is what led to Clinton's impeachment.
I don't think I understood that either. No, I did not. That either.
Like what?
I knew that it was like about lying, right? He like lied under oath or something.
Yeah, but like
that's the only thing I know. Just to be clear.
Okay. Well, I didn't understand that, so I just don't think I fully grasped what was happening since I was a sophomore in high school at the time. And I think it was last week we established I wasn't winning any popularity contests. I wasn't cool. I didn't know what anything really was. And I certainly wasn't watching the news. Though I have some interesting statistics which to explain why we did have a lot of exposure to it, even though we weren't watching the news. But before we get going, I was just curious to know what you remember about this scandal, or maybe if you can think back to when Monica Lewinsky's name was being said in the news and, you know, all the jokes. How did you view it? Because again, obviously I didn't view it as such a monumental moment politically, that it was such big news that the second president to ever be impeached began with this situation. Like it was pretty major. I felt like it was more kind of silly from my perspective. So I was curious, like, how do you remember it?
Got it.
So I can start. When we were coming into this today, I was even trying to remember like exactly what time frame was this. I couldn't recall. So I was in high school is what I think I'm taking from this.
Yeah, the
like
time frame was
99.
1998 through 1999. Like the beginning of 99, but all of 98.
So like middle school, high school. Yeah, because I feel like, okay, what I remember was that Monica Lewinsky was an intern in the White House. I don't really even know what she did there, except allegedly give blowjob. But like that was all over the news, was like somehow it came out. I don't know if she accused him or if somebody else put it out in the media or something, but like everyone was talking about how allegedly Bill was fooling around with this intern, and then he was denying it. And so there was like a lot of shaming of her. And I don't remember how we all finally came to an agreement or understanding that it did in fact happen. Maybe he admitted to it at some point. But I think there was a point in time where it was like, some people were like, no, I believe Bill Clinton that it didn't happen. And some people are like, nah, I believe that it did, you know. And then I feel like as a society, we all kind of agree now that it did. Anyways, that's all I got. And then he was impeached because, but maybe this is it. Like he lied. So he had said, I didn't have sexual relations with that woman or whatever. And then somehow it came out that actually he did. And so that's why they impeached him, because he lied or something, which was, and then I remember all the debate around like that ensued around like, is this an impeachable offense because he cheated on his wife, which is shitty and he is a dirtbag, but also like, is that a reflection of his ability to lead this country or fulfill his role? That's what I got.
I pretty much.
Okay, you said some gems.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have pretty much the same recollection. It's really hard because, as we were talking about before we jumped on the podcast with my 14-year-old daughter, what I see now versus what I saw back then, it's very blurry, and I know a little bit more about it now, so I'm not sure if what I know now is what I actually thought back then, or it's like what, you know.
You've picked up along the way.
Yeah, my sidebar. This is just a really cool analogy. But one of my mentors told me, consider your brain like a computer that is filled with documents, and your memories are a Word document. And every time you pull up that Word document in that memory, you make a revision and an edit. So you might add a comma, you might add bold, you might underline, right? And so that's what's coming up for me right here is I feel like I remember that Monica Lewinsky was shamed, by her
big time.
appearance.
Yes. I was going to add that. Like, I feel like there's so much topic about, or so much discussion about what she looked like.
What she looked like. Like, this is like not like a desirable affair compared to Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. Right? Oh. And so I think that was some of the salaciousness around he possibly couldn't do it because this woman isn't attractive enough to be, or if he did do it, then let's impeach him because it's not a voluptuous sex goddess that he's having the affair with, and so that is wrong because he cheated on his wife with an uglier woman. I feel like that is what I got that made it all more of a joke rather than the way that we talk about Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe is like, they had this mysterious relationship, you know?
Yeah. I've never made that parallel.
Me neither. And I feel, because I do remember, I feel like my kid self just remembers the beret. Like, and people just talking about like her wearing a beret and stuff. And I just remember I linked the,
what a detail.
But you guys, like, so anytime anybody imitated her, which was a lot, they always wore the little beret, right?
Oh, the beret. Oh my gosh.
Guys, yeah. And so as I was like kind of putting everything together, immediately I went straight to, I was like, I swear there was an Eminem video where he's imitating Bill Clinton and then a woman crawls out from under the desk wearing a beret looking like Monica Lewinsky. And so I spent, I would say about 20 minutes trying to find the exact music video. Lo and behold, it was his debut song, My Name Is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I linked it is linked, Karen's, my followers, like it's linked because watch that video because first of all, what an intro to Eminem. This song came out in 99 and it was like such pop culture. And anyway, so that's what I picture.
Do you have statistics on how many songs were about?
No, I don't know all the lyrics. I don't know if and you guys know this about me, but I don't ever know words to songs. Really ever. But I don't know that he addresses it in the song. I think there is another song of Eminem's because this is what derailed me. Like, this is what took me 15, 20 minutes when I was putting it in. I thought if I put Eminem, Monica Lewinsky portrayal music video, it would pull up the whatever 1999 music video and I would be done. But there was another song called Rap God that he does specifically mention Monica Lewinsky. And it was way later.
Rap
God. It was like recent.
Well, let's put a pin in Rap God for our Diddy episode. There's some language in there.
Yeah.
Really quick, no exact count exists, but The Cut did an analysis and found close to 128 hip hop tracks referencing Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so I feel like that's kind of how I was consuming the story was through music and through like TV and not really from a hard hitting, like watching the news and that kind of thing.
Yeah. We were young.
Yeah, we were so young. So I'm going to share this quote. And I'm going to add in a little bit more information here. So I have a couple sources. One, I used this Time Magazine article that just basically gives you timestamps of how this story developed. And I also reference an essay written by Monica Lewinsky in Vanity Fair. She wrote it in 2018, which is the 20th anniversary of the scandal beginning. So this quote is from Monica Lewinsky. She says, "Maybe you remember or have heard stories about how the scandal saturated television and radio, newspapers, magazines, and the internet. Saturday Night Live and the Sunday morning opinion programs, dinner party conversation and water cooler discussion, late night monologues, and political talk shows. Definitely the talk shows. In the Washington Post alone, there were 125 articles written about this crisis. In just the first 10 days, many 125 articles in 10 days. Damn. Okay. Many parents felt compelled, and this is what I
from one newspaper publication, by the way.
That's one newspaper publication. That shit is wild. Still within her quote, many parents felt compelled to discuss sexual issues with their children earlier than they might have wanted to. They had to explain why lying, even if the president did it, was not acceptable behavior. So that was her quote, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. And I also just want to share this stat from the New York Times article. It just says that by Times count, so this is just their count, 2,345 minutes of the CBS, NBC, and ABC evening newscasts between January 22nd, 1998 and February 12th, 1999 had been devoted to the scandal. So like when we say that it was everywhere, and definitely should be included if we're talking millennial, like, 90s time frame, like it was everywhere. And it's just interesting to see like how teenagers might have taken the information in versus how our parents would have taken the information in. Because if it happened while we were adults, I know I would have paid attention to it in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
But it reached everyone.
But in this day and age, that number would have been quadruple. With
Quadruple.
TikTok and social media and people wanting to break the news. Like,
oh, yeah.
It would be massive.
For sure. So my next question is, because she brings up the fact that it did end up causing families to have conversations a little earlier in than they may have planned, or maybe it was right when they were ready to have those type of conversations. But do you feel like did this come up at home at all, or were there conversations about, like she said, like sexual issues that like came up during this time?
I mean,
No.
I was probably in 8th and 9th grade, so I feel like my mom had already had the very awkward sex talk with me that included an explanation of what an erection was, which that's a conversation for another day. Yeah, so I was the younger of the siblings, right? So
See,
I feel like
I knew in the beginning of the episode that your mom would understand.
Yeah, so I don't feel like we were having conversations that were like too early, like we were old enough to have already had discussions about sex and stuff. But I'm trying to think of like my family. So my parents were both, left leaning, and I feel like the conversation in our house was like around how everything was being blown wildly out of proportion. Like, sure, our president was an adulterer and a creep, but like the noise around all of it was so focused on like he can't possibly be fit to serve as president. And it's like, I don't know if my parents said it, but I think I understood it as like, you think he's the first president to ever do something inappropriate with a woman that wasn't his wife? Like that was my, like, so he's the first one to get caught,
Yeah. I was going to say, this feels very like right-wing coded.
Yes.
Yeah, that's in my house. That's what it felt like. My parents were like, this is a way for the Republicans to make Democrats look bad and hopefully get a president out of office. That is all it is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually what Hillary Clinton, like, I think her only statement made about this during the time was, this is what you said, kind of blown out of proportion. It is a right wing. I think she used the word right wing, like grasp at kind of taking him down. But he remained popular as a president. Midterm elections happened in the Democrats actually gained 5 seats in Congress that year.
Wow.
Probably because of like that feeling that this was just a move to try to shame the Democrats as opposed to like actual news.
Exactly.
Well, what else was going on at the time? There's a war going. I'm remembering us invading somewhere, having
Yes.
some sort of war happen, because I remember watching that. I do have a very vivid memory of in social studies class watching something war related happening during the same time this was happening.
Yes, he did order Iraq to be bombed at a certain point. Clinton orders airstrikes against Iraq after Saddam Hussein refuses to allow UN weapons inspectors to enter the country.
That's what it was, Saddam Hussein. Yep.
And by the way, that delayed the House's impeachment vote.
Yes. Okay, yes. So now this is what I remember about that. I remember Saddam Hussein.
Would you guys like me maybe to take you through like a little timeline? The timeline, the Time article is very long, lots of details. So I just pulled out kind of some key things.
Okay, yeah,
so
that would be great.
Okay, so in January, on January 26th, 1998 is when Clinton made the famous quote, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky."
Yeah.
April 1st that year, a judge dismisses Paula Jones' sexual harassment suit. So the reason that Lewinsky's situation was brought up is because Paula Jones, who was accusing President Clinton of sexual harassment in Arkansas, her attorneys were looking for this story that was starting to break in January of 98 and they wanted to add it to her case to prove that he has a trend of sexual harassment in the workplace. August 17th, Clinton testifies to the grand jury for more than 4 hours on a closed circuit television. He admits to inappropriate intimate contact, but also says that he had given accurate evidence in January. So in January, he denied it completely, but he said he did give accurate evidence in January, arguing that it depends on what the meaning of the word is. And I want to put a pin in that because I felt like that was a big, like the meaning of sex. And then he speaks to the nation and addresses, he said, "Indeed, I did have a relationship with Lewinsky that was not appropriate." So I think after that, it wasn't a question of whether he did or not. It's just his definition of sex and did he perjure himself, which the House of Representatives did say he did. Starr Report was released September 11th of 98. December 11th, the committee recommended impeachment. January 7th, 99, the trial begins in the Senate. And then February 12th, he was acquitted of his impeachment.
Yeah. I'd love to know more about Monica, if you have it. I came across this in the 1996 research I was doing. Monica Lewinsky and Linda Tripp, their relationship, and the influence Linda Tripp had on Monica Lewinsky coming public.
Okay, yeah. So what I read the article that you linked, and what I was gravitating to was, first of all, I didn't know who Linda Tripp was. I didn't know who Ken Starr was. I remember the name Paula Jones, and I was confusing Paula Jones' face with Linda Tripp. Like I didn't understand any of this stuff. But Linda Tripp was worked in the Pentagon, and when the relationship was found out between Lewinsky and Clinton, Lewinsky was moved to the Pentagon, so removed from the White House to the Pentagon, and that's where she met Linda Tripp, who was 20-some years her senior, but they became friends, and she began confiding in her about the relationship. So then Linda Tripp, I'm assuming, is an op, and someone asked her. She decided she was disgusted by Clinton, and she felt it important that he be brought down, and she agreed to then be wired by the FBI. And so she recorded 20 hours of conversation between her and Lewinsky. And Lewinsky's I just really love him, and he is so handsome, and I know this is so hard, and blah, 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 and every little thing that she was saying was being recorded. And then Linda Tripp returned the 20 hours of tape over to Ken Starr, who then wrote the Starr Report. And that's how it became evident that there was an actual.
Ken Starr was the FBI?
No, he was not FBI. He was an independent counsel.
Okay. Yeah.
That investigated this.
I thought he was one of the attorneys. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so
I didn't know all of that though. That's disgusting.
Disgusting.
What an invasion of privacy.
Right? And someone said
treating her
to
like
Tripp,
she's the criminal or Monica Lewinsky having someone wire and talk to her. Like, she's a victim. Bill Clinton was the most powerful man in the world and using his power to get something from a woman, and somehow now we're wiring ourselves and getting information out of the victim. What the fuck is that?
It just feels very today, because I feel like we are so divisive and we're so partisan. And I feel like what Linda Tripp did then would absolutely happen now to take down a Democrat, like from the looking at MAGA people. It just seemed very familiar for the House to say, ooh, we got him. And I feel like, MAGA people feel the same way when Donald Trump was impeached. Yeah. I feel like they probably feel the same way because it was like, we got him.
I guess I grew up in a, Democratic house or a Democrat household or whatever. And so my memories are certainly skewed on this topic, but I didn't realize there was so much disdain or dislike of Bill Clinton that they would go to these lengths to try to get him out of office. This feels like a big stretch, and I didn't realize he was one of those presidents that people were targeting.
The Republicans targeting a Democrat in office to get him out? That doesn't sound familiar. They came for Obama for wearing a tan suit.
Yeah, but Obama was black.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It doesn't matter. Anybody who's anti their ideology is gotta go.
Yeah, and this is why I'm like, I clearly lived in a very biased bubble, because I just didn't hear that rhetoric that, especially in the 90s, the economy was good. We weren't at war. There was the Silicon Valley boom. Everything was pretty good. And so I didn't realize there was any.
I think, Karen, what you're saying, I don't think that there was public rhetoric. I think that the Republicans jumped on this and tried to turn it into something, which didn't end up working because, like I said, 1998 midterm elections, the Democrats gained 5 seats, and he remained wildly popular as a president, and
maybe that's why, because everyone was like, "What are you doing? Like, so this is such a non-issue, and everything is really good right now. So what are you doing?" Yeah, and I think Americans even kind of was trying to grapple with, the economy's really good right now. We're living life. Like, should we really be doing all this just for a blowjob? A thing that all presidents do, that we know all presidents do. So then that's where the conversation really actually went publicly, I think. Okay. But I think the Republicans maybe did try to. I feel like you kind of said it already, Karen. You said that Monica Lewinsky was a victim. So I want to read this quote from her, from her essay. She says, if the internet was a bête noire to me in 1998, and I had to look up what bête noire is, and it's like something you dislike. If the internet was a bête noire in 1998, its stepchild, social media, has been a savior for millions of women today, notwithstanding all the cyberbullying, online harassment, doxing, and slut shaming. Virtually anyone can share her or his MeToo story and be instantly welcomed into a tribe. In addition, the democratizing potential of the internet to open up and support networks and penetrate what used to be closed circles of power is something that was unavailable to me back then. Power in that case remained in the hands of the president and his minions, the Congress, the prosecutors, and the press. So her article was entitled "Emerging from the House of Gaslight in the Age of Me Too." This article was written on February 2018. That's 2 years into Donald Trump's first term. And the Me Too movement. So at this time, she mentions in that article Cosby, Weinstein, all of those. And so she felt freed to say something at this time, helping us start to realize, 'cause I feel like so I guess my original question, the way I wrote it was, how do you remember thinking of Monica Lewinsky in 98, and how do you view her now? Because I feel like in 98, there was a lot of she was vilified. Yeah, it was her fault. And this action of Linda, what's-her-face, putting a wire on and secretly recording her is a perfect example. They treated her as the temptress, like it's her fault that the president strayed off the straight and narrow. It's just, yeah. And like, I don't think I had an opinion either way when I was younger, but reflecting on it, like that is the messaging that I heard, was that she was a bad woman who took advantage of a vulnerable man and his sexual urges. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, he was literally the most powerful man in the entire world. He could have whatever, and he believed whomever he wanted, and he did. And she was a 20-something,
24,
influenceable young woman who really looked up to him and, you know, like assumed he was a good person. And also, I'm sure to some degree assumed she can't say no to the most powerful man in the world, like whether consciously or unconsciously, you know, like that thought has to be somewhere there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's not, yeah. I don't know if she assumed he was a good person. He was cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger conversation here is around consent and our definition of consent as a society. And I think our disbelief in the act comes from the root of consent and power. She was 24, and you know, historically, older men and younger women is accepted. So what is the proper age to say that this wasn't a consensual act? The blurriness comes from the power that he has in holding the office. And that when I think about like Cosby and Weinstein and R. Kelly, and when we talk about Diddy, like that is the definition of consent that we as a society have not yet come to consensus on, of like public belief, you know, of like supporting women. And it's the patriarchy, right? Like this is how these men stay in power, is because we don't have a real language around, you know, you can consent I can, even in my own marriage, I still have consent, you know, like, and I don't think that is talked about enough to normalize it in our like everyday conversations of like, it doesn't matter how old she was or if he was like having an affair in his marriage. His power is what made this murky and distasteful. And to Karen's point, like that doesn't necessarily mean that he can't be the president of the United States here. And that's right. That's where like our extreme ideology is fucked up, right? Because that's not the conversation either. The conversation is around when you are in a hierarchy or have a position of power, how do you treat the people within your orbit, and what is and what is the quote unquote crime when you like, you know, go against that line. And we don't have anything like that in society yet that will really address that issue.
I think, I mean, this is like a whole separate discussion, I think, on consent and the role of power in that. But I think we want a black and white answer for things like this, and there's so much gray, you know, like, yeah, it's just impossible. Like every situation has its own circumstances that have to be considered. I think that's why it makes it so hard, this like element of power, because then, you know, people will go to the extreme and be like, okay, so then the president of the United States, if he's or she is not married, like could never date anybody because they're always going to be in a position of power. And it's like, no. But then like, how do you define it? It's so hard. And I don't think we as a society do well with ambiguity in these types of discussions. You know, like everyone always takes it to the most extreme example, and the reality is it's always somewhere in the middle.
In this case, do you feel like there's ambiguity though?
I feel like
around consent,
around Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton.
Well, I think that like, and I feel like we'll talk about this a little bit more in our next episode, but like, I think, you know, our system is built on like, you know, innocent until proven guilty. Also, does the punishment meet the crime? And in like many situations, the punishment does not meet the crime. Either we're like overly punishing people, like we were talking about before we got on this podcast, about like overly punishing teenagers and putting them into life sentences for things that they have no control over with their frontal lobe, or we're not making criminal offenses that are harmful and hurtful to people in our society. Like we haven't clarified. And we haven't clarified it because the people in power are men. And the reason
Who
why
are committing these crimes.
yeah, or we have such a like masculine energy that we subscribe to, that we are not taking into account like the actual harm that is done here. And we don't have any kind of, we're still kind of operating out of this like very archaic, like eye for an eye kind of thing. And I don't know. I just feel it's shifting a little bit because we're having the conversations around it. I still personally don't believe that this is an impeachable offense. I really don't. But I don't know why I believe
the impeachment was over lying under oath.
Lying. Yeah, so you never got to that. What is
because that's how Bill Clinton was trying to explain away why he started by saying, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, and then had to backtrack and then say we did have an intimate relationship. And so then I do remember this from this time frame is oral sex. Because so when he was saying, did you have a sexual relationship with this woman? He said no, because they did not ever have intercourse. And so that's
the way he defended.
That's how he defended what he said. And he said now,
but we all know that oral sex is sexual relations. Like,
yeah, but I feel like I feel like defining just sex happened then. I feel like because I feel like Sex and the City came out around that same time, like 1999, 2000. I remember that actually because I'm a big fan of Sex and the City. And there was an episode where there was a young writer who was following Carrie around, and she was basically saying, I'm a virgin, but I love your, which is called Sex and the City. And Carrie's like, do you read my column? And she was like, no, I just am fascinated by like dating and stuff. And she was like, and I'm a true virgin. She was like, no Lewinsky here, like no blowjobs. Like, I mean, I have not done anything. And I feel like the conversation around what sex is and what it all encompasses happened then. I feel like I remember having those conversations, like, were you really a virgin? Like, or did you know what I mean? And virginity was big in my life then, like I was consider, like just what very heavy in the church, and I, you know what I mean? So, so when that came up, I was this is what I remember about it, is just the talk about sex and what sex includes. And, if you're still a virgin, I just felt like that conversation amongst, teenagers was happening then.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, when you're like under the court of law, that language has to be so specific. So like, yes, to Karen's point, like we all know that like that is a sexual act, but in the court of law, if you're not saying your penis in her vagina,
her mouth, or in her vagina, or
then he can get away with that.
But he didn't. He was impeached.
Right. No, I'm saying he can get away with like that, quote unquote, lying under the court of law, because the specific question wasn't asked.
Did you have sexual intercourse? It was
did you penetrate? A good lawyer would have been like, did you penetrate? Did she put her? Did you put your penis?
Yeah, like here's a few options.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I also feel like it wasn't until August or whatever you were saying, Steph, where they even realized they needed to come up with a defense, because I'm sure at the time that it all started to go public, he wasn't thinking he would actually get impeached. If you recall at the time, like impeachment wasn't a thing we did to presidents. Like one president had been impeached before, and now it's like commonplace.
Monica Lewinsky was questioned, and she gave an affidavit that they did not have a relationship at all. And so then when he did his testifying in the grand jury, he then said the same thing. No, we did not have a relationship.
Yeah.
So,
it's fascinating. Are we confessionals right now? Go ahead, Steph.
Okay.
I actually don't have any.
So I felt like going into this, I was like, man, we really ruined her. We as a society really ruined Monica Lewinsky's life. And if you read her essay, there was an article before this that she wrote that really outlined how she was in hiding pretty much. And she lived a really tough life after this. And that was all of her 30s and 40s. And today she's 52 years old. And I'm like, slut shaming and the power and the sexual harassment and all of that kind of stuff. She really, truly was a victim. And I just want to say that I believe that 100%. But when I read her article, I noticed that she did not mention, this is my confessional, so like just remember, I'm confessing my hurt here. Okay. When I read her article and I skimmed the other one, not one mention of Hillary Clinton ever. And for
I've noticed in this conversation too, we have
not talked about her either. And as a married woman, 24 is young, but not so young that you don't know that when a person has a wife and a child and a family, and again, he's responsible for his relationship, and so he's the one who committed the affair and the adultery and the whatever. But so maybe it's more about him than it is about Monica Lewinsky, but no one takes into consideration Hillary Clinton. And it's bullshit. And
I think I kind of wonder if it's because everyone knew that Bill was a cheater and a sleaze, and like,
what? So she made her bed, she can lie in it?
I think there is some shaming of Hillary for never commenting on it and staying with him. It's like everyone blames the women in this scenario when Bill is the shithead.
He's the shithead.
The shithead, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. Did you guys watch the Hillary doc?
Yeah,
yes.
I was going to say, I think it has, for me, it's bringing up like the first lady that Hillary was compared to any other first lady. Like she's the only first lady who ever ran for president, so like she was like super smart and brilliant and intelligent, and like she knew things, she has a high understanding of the political stratosphere that like other first ladies just don't have. And so I think
arguably a better politician than her husband was.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that silence came from her restraint, honestly.
Yeah.
Knowing the political system that she was involved in. So, I don't know.
It's fascinating.
Fascinating, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for a great conversation. I'm really excited. I agree with you, Manny. I feel like what we talk about next week will kind of be a good follow-up to this, because I think some of this might come back up again.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
See
Deb.
you all next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, bitches. That's a wrap on another episode of You Can Call Me Karen. If you liked what you heard or didn't, go to our show page and leave a review. Just know, we will call you out. And if, unlike my two co-hosts, you find yourself scrolling endlessly on TikTok, follow us at You Can Call Me Karen. And if you're still living in the 20th century like a boomer, don't worry. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at You Can Call Me Karen _pod. We love you for listening.
They're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same.